Cut that.
Welcome to TDB, where we don't. We weren't talking about things before this episode.
It was total silence.
What are you drinking?
Silent Rage.
We're doing
Chuck Norris film. Yeah.
Nice.
Which has nothing to do with anything, but I brought it up. We are drinking some old Dongding that I picked up in one of my trips to Taiwan, which were quite a while ago at this point, 7 to 10 years ago. So This one was, I think, about 30 years old then. It's an aged Dongding. Just trying to spice up this episode, do a couple different things here and there.
Nice.
We will be drinking this bad boy. Have my aged oolong pot, and we'll get going.
Cool. I don't know if I've seen a Chuck Norris film. Comment below. What's your favorite Chuck Norris film? I feel like I had to have seen one.
It'd be surprising if you hadn't.
Yeah, like what?
Your friend's not into bad action movies?
Not enough.
Yeah. Silent Rage, that's not a bad one. That's the one with the guy that just won't die. I'm not really a big Chuck Norris fan, but
Got it.
he's not exactly the best of that group of stars.
Oh! Oh! How dare you! Let me smell that shit. I want cookies made out of that. Yum.
Might have to re-up my water in a little bit. We shall see. But this will be rinse out the cups and...
Episode 506.
Yes, correct. We can keep track for plus or minus 10 after 500. And we're going to lose count.
Oh man, that's so true.
And
T-Trick Jenga. Brandy.
yeah,
Dark.
smells about right.
Dark sugar, molasses, fruit plum, brandy, earthy mineral.
Yeah. So how would you say, it's been a while since we've done some aged oolongs on the show. How would you say it differs from like aged pour?
That's a good question.
If you want to take a sip first, because I know it's been a while since you've had it too.
First impressions are a lot of the earthy flavors that you age into pu'er, I feel like don't age into these oolongs as much.
Yeah, it's a little less in the garden.
Yeah, definitely.
Although it can get in the garden.
Yeah.
A little less, so.
I think like a lot of the charcoal roasted oolongs that we've had that have been aged and roasted and stuff, you don't notice the aged taste as strong. Yeah. I don't really smell any like age on this necessarily. It smells so good though. I guess that's not necessarily true. It's kind of like an oak.
It ages different.
Oak barrel thing.
I mean, the classic note that I was always introduced to was plum for the aged oolongs, but they can also kind of age out of that at a certain point.
Yeah.
And, I've had these long enough that I'm a little curious how they're doing, because I don't have them that often. So.
It's warm so that wow.
Yeah, really sweet. I'd say sweeter than pour. It's definitely a brighter taste.
Yes.
But it's still kind of woody, maybe a little bit in the fruit category.
Yeah. I think a lot of the core of the flavors are going to maintain the same, and then you're going to have a dulling down to some of the high bright notes and some kind of like deepening of some of the earthier, deeper minerally notes potentially as well. I'm getting a bit more of a minerally body on this.
Right.
But still quite a bit of brightness.
Yeah.
And then also the roasting of the initial material was going to influence a lot of this too.
Yeah.
So
definitely some that you can lean in on. One note that it can pick up, that pu'er can also pick up, but I think the nature of it's a little bit different, is a sour note. And usually that's identified with having too much humidity in the storage. Something where pu'er you definitely want to keep up kind of a steady amount of humidity. That's something to look out for too, if like leans a little bit too much towards the sour tart notes versus kind of like overall kind of a sweeter palate.
I'm loving this. Hard for me to point that it's 40 years old or something. I love the little bit of complexity at the end of it. It has a little bit of the not quite tanniny mouth pucker, but just a small hint of that fruit. A lot of minerals for me, but like light.
Yeah.
You know, sweet.
Mom test? I want to say yes.
I kind of want to say yes too, actually. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I would say it could pass the ultralight as well.
Yeah, honestly.
Just because these are pretty forgiving teas.
A bit deeper. A bit more wood.
Yeah, interesting. I do feel like this has aged a little bit. You know, I don't remember the specifics of what each oolong tastes like, but I do feel like when I bought these teas, they're a little bit more in the plummy category. And I think there's a bit of that here, but it's not a dominant flavor like it was.
I'm almost feeling like I'm tasting the charcoal that's sort of like slowly aging out of the flavors and revealing a bit more of those high notes.
Is it like really a little mineral-y or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, nice back of the mouth sweetness too, like lingering in the throat. I do enjoy that.
And the texture is light, but it's a strong flavor profile.
Yeah. Do another one, and then I think I gotta fill up for some water. Gotta do a mid-session fuel up here. Refuel.
Really great residual flavor. I think this is definitely more of a tea drinker's tea.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a little. The profile is like you kind of gotta have drank a fair number of teas to appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit. Yeah. Definitely a little bit different. Yeah. Yeah. Can people grab this? Is this?
No. I don't even know what tea this is.
Okay.
I just have labeled it like Dongding, and I have the price in new Taiwan dollars from like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. I don't know. It was a while ago. Yeah. I don't even know. I pulled out a different tea. I'm like, oh, I'm almost out of this one, and I didn't have enough for session, so I went to the next one. And
Perfect.
yeah.
I love it. Well, this is kind of perfect representation of a tea where you don't have to know everything about it for it to still wow you.
Right, yeah. It's an old oolong, and I mean, we'll leave it at that. It's Taiwanese old oolong. I think it's been stored in Taiwan, Taipei, probably for most of its life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. We've had some crazy old oolongs on this show, just to the degree that it's been cool and remarkable. Some of those had almost a weakening of flavor. I feel like this one is not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons pu'er is often aged too, is like, it's strong. Pu'er material is strong, I mean, like, that's why it's so bitter and stuff from the get-go. So I think it's one of the raw materials that can hold up for that robustness. So having an oolong that is strong enough that it can hold up, maybe it might be one of those important characteristics to age. And honestly, I have no idea what this tasted like when it was young. It's like hard to speculate at this point. Cheers.
And I'm just totally engrossed in this. So good. A little hint of cinnamony flavors now.
Very smooth too, very soft, very easy going.
Okay.
And is this for you? When would you drink this tea? Is this like a seasonal tea? Is this like when would you put? Well, let's do a bunch of different questions. When would you drink this tea seasonally? Where would you put this in like kind of a session? With a buddy.
This feels like a great day for today tea, which is that actually it's early August, but it was a cloudy day today, a little bit colder, only supposed to get into the upper 70s today compared to kind of upper 80s that it has been. And with the clouds and stuff, this is just like the perfect kind of darker flavors for me. So a perfect day for it. In terms of where I would put this oriented in a tea session, definitely not after something that's abrasive and strong.
Sure.
I just think that you would lose a little bit too much of the character of this. I could see pairing this after a really bright, lovely jaded oolong, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
So there's really different contrasts, but
it could also be like a nice capper on like just a oolong day.
Yeah.
It's like, let's do some Taiwanese, let's do some wooey,
Yeah.
and let's cap it off with something like this that's a little different.
Yeah. The only caveat would be I wouldn't finish this after having a charcoal roasted oolong.
Okay. So like a super strong wooey or something.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Something different, but
yeah,
not charcoal roasted. Here you go.
Cheers.
Here you go. match.
What would go well with after like a super strong tea? Or is it just like you should you got to end on those?
Water.
or do you go even stronger? Or like a meal? A meal would be good.
Yeah, honestly, a meal. I mean, like, I'm not kidding when I say water, man. Like, we'll drink some teas, and then I'll have a sip of water afterwards to clean the palate, and it just tastes sweet.
Yeah.
Because it's, yeah, we drink some stuff on the show, that's for sure.
You know, a water is a really good gauge, just to see kind of where your palate's at, too. Like, I mean, this is not totally tea related, but I mean, we sometimes get Sichuan food before we film these sessions.
Yeah.
And that's always a bit like, okay, what tea do we have after this? Because the mala in like Sichuan cuisine, which is not necessarily spicy, although it is spicy, but it's really numbing, which I think is an even bigger impact on just like your palate.
Yeah.
And so if you drink water after that, you're gonna be like, holy shit, this water tastes really weird,
it's very
really sweet and stuff like that. So almost takes a tea to kind of get recalibrated back in.
I agree.
I think if you watch closely on the episodes, you can probably figure out which ones it is. Usually by the second tea, we're back to normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a tea like this would deserve to be on its own. Not to disparage any of the teas that we've...
Doesn't deserve the mala treatment. Don't have Sichuan tea and just like bang this out.
Yeah. But no, this is really great. And yeah, I think a teener's tea for sure. I mean, something definitely different. You want to have a kind of history of these flavors to understand where this is coming from in the context.
Yeah.
I think if you just had this as your first oolong, you'd be very confused.
Sure.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to just go back, and reflect. It's like, what would you think of this when you're first starting out? And it's like, when we say we're tea drinkers and stuff like that, I think people imagine something very different than what we actually do. So anyways, just some random thoughts I had.
Yeah. I think I still would have really enjoyed this profile, but it's definitely a unique profile.
Sure.
Something that's pretty uncommon. And it's hard to have the pairing of the flavors. I feel like even in a normal oolong, honestly, something like this. So yeah, I think this is pretty unique.
Yeah, and you know, you can't pick up this tea, but I would recommend people check out places like Floating Leaves and Everlasting Teas, who we both had good experiences with their aged oolong before. So those two places, I'm sure there's a couple others that have it as well. Those two places would come to mind if you're looking to kind of do the best to recreate approximately what we're getting on this session.
And I want to encourage people, it's fun to go to your local tea shops, but it can be hard even at the local tea shops to find something really special and different.
Yeah. When you're talking about pu'er or aged oolong, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, buy it at your own peril. But I mean, like a lot of those.
You'll find some great silver needle that'll be tasty, and your typical stuff. It's going to be great. And you'll have a variety of tea, especially if you're just getting started. It's a really fun experience. I love doing that. And I love going to tea houses to go just to have conversation and share with friends. But if you're starting to get more and more into it, it quickly kind of becomes slightly more niche. And I think getting the some of these online vendors. Starting earlier on that, I think, is a good recommendation.
It's not a coincidence that most of the teas we bring onto the show have been bought online, or, I mean, in the case of this one, through travels, which, you know, we don't go to Asia that often anymore. So, yeah, I mean, and some of the original teas we did bring in kind of locally. But yes, the online really kind of flattens the world in a way that you can enjoy different teas. And of course, you're never going to have the same access as someone actually in Hong Kong or something like that. But you know, we can. You have a lot more access than you would have like 30 years ago.
This tea, reflecting back on it for a second, it almost feels like I'm drinking two teas. Like a really sweet, elevated, slightly fruity oolong with a little bit of roast, and then this like lovely charcoal, minerally base note throughout the whole thing. It's really wonderful.
And do you think that latter profile is kind of like what kind of resembles what it would have tasted like maybe when it was like 20 years ago or something?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it would have been a bit more abrasive and a bit muddier in that range, and also probably a lot stronger there.
Yeah.
And even now when we're brewing through this tea, the actual dynamic nature of the tea inside of the session itself, I'm getting a lot more of the brightness now later on in the session.
Makes sense.
Yeah, really tasty. Hey, go find some super old oolong somewhere, I don't know where, and give it a shot. These are different and interesting. I think I'm going to continue to think about, James, your question about like how does this aged flavor tastes different than other raws and ripes that we bring on the show.
Sure.
Comment below if you have any insights on old oolongs yourself, and we'll see you guys next time.
Deuces.
Peace.